Hello and welcome back to another research recap. My name is Lisa. I'm your host. I'm the owner and head coach at Nutrition Coaching and Life, where we help people lose body fat, increase their muscle mass, improve their body composition, and their relationship with food. And on Wednesdays, I love to jump on here to talk about some of the latest research as it pertains to exercise science and nutrition in order to improve my own training, but also the services that we provide for our clients. And of course, just because I love to learn. And if you too enjoy learning, please subscribe to our channel. I hope to provide a lot of valuable content for you here. If you enjoy it, also do share it with a friend. Maybe they can learn something as well. In any case, let's talk about protein timing for muscle hypertrophy and does it matter? There's already quite a bit of research on this out there, and we'll talk about the existing research as well. But there is a new paper or a new study that has been done by Lack et al. This year, 2024, and the title was Timing Matters, the effects of two different timings of high protein diets on body composition, muscular performance, and biochemical markers in resistance-trained males. So I found that particularly interesting because I too am an experienced trainee, so research with newbies is not super relevant for me or many of my clients as well. I'm mostly going to assess this or read from Body by Science, which is a research review from Bill Campbell, a wonderful research review. I can only recommend it. I have no affiliation with it whatsoever, other than that I love it. But he assesses two articles every single month, or two research studies every single month that pertain to fat loss and muscle growth, and he does it in such an easy to understand manner. I really recommend you signing up for it. It's only, I think, $7.99 or so per month. Go check it out. I'll put it in the show notes. But yes, anyway, so the title in the research review was actually Protein Timing for Muscle Hypertrophy. Does it matter? Well, let's look into it. Give me one moment here. So in consideration of the work that's already been done in this area, the current opinion on optimal protein intakes for maximizing muscle mass kind of indicates a little bit of a hierarchy. One moment, next slide here. A hierarchy. So this hierarchy shows that, of course, total daily protein intake really is the thing that matters the most, that we should be paying the most attention to. If you don't have that nailed, then go and focus on that regardless of everything else. The next thing would be to kind of try and distribute it roughly evenly throughout the day. And then the lesser important thing, maybe not important at all, we don't know yet, would be the intake around your workout. So the question is, does this latest study in resistance-trained males deviate from the narrative that protein timing, consuming protein close to the resistance training workout or not, is important for building additional muscle mass? Or does it fall in line with most of the other research studies reporting that the timing of protein around the workout stimulus is not a strategy we need to concern ourselves with? Well, let us find out. Let's see who was in this study actually. So there were 31 resistance-trained males that completed the study, and they had to be resistance training at least 3 times per week for 1 year prior to starting the study. They had to be not on steroids. They also had to be free from any medical issues. They had to be sleeping at least 7 to 8 hours during a 24-hour period, which I mean, not many people probably do, so hard to find participants, but I get the point, just because, of course, that's going to optimize their muscle hypertrophy. And they had to have a protein intake of lower than 2 grams per kg per body weight, so lower than 0.9 grams per pound of body weight, just to see if changing something in terms of protein is actually going to make a difference here. The average age of the subjects was nearly 25 years. Their average body weight percentage was about 15%, so reasonably lean already, and they had about 3 years of resistance training experience when entering the study. Okay, let's look at what they actually did. The researchers matched the subjects into pairs according to their muscle mass. They then randomly assigned them to one of the following 2 protein timing groups during an 8-week resistance training program. So there was an immediate group that received the protein dose right after or right around the workout, before and after. And then there was a 3-hour group. The immediate group consumed a whey protein isolate supplement immediately before and immediately after each resistance training workout. The 3-hour group consumed the same whey protein isolate supplement 3 hours before and 3 hours after the resistance training workout. I like that they used a whey protein isolate. That is supposed to be the form of protein that is the fastest absorbed, so that would really kind of like indicate doesn't matter, as opposed to if we had a casein that is slow releasing in any case. But yes, so this is well chosen. And then let's look at the specifics of this training program. So the resistance training program details. The team did something that every resistance training research group should do, says Bill Campbell. They prescribed a resistance training program that was subject specific, so relative to their pre-study training volumes. What that means is that there was an accommodation for subjects who were typically training with lower training volumes and those who were training with higher volumes in the months before the study started. During the screening process, they identified subjects training with less than 20 sets per week for their major muscle groups and those with more than 20 sets per week for each major muscle group. And those subjects that already trained with higher volumes were prescribed a higher volume training program with 5 days per week. And those subjects who were training with lower training volumes were prescribed a lower volume training program per week, so just 4 days, but much closer to their normal training volumes. That is how it should be prescribed, because if you don't do this, you risk having some subjects in a detraining during a study intervention, while others are asked to increase their training volumes to levels that they are not likely able to recover from initially. So for example, let's say we've prescribed one training program for all subjects, or if we do that, this program that would be prescribed called for subjects to complete 10 sets of squats per week. No matter what the subjects were doing with their squatting training volume before this study, everyone should be doing 10 sets of squats per week. You would think, okay, that's good because everyone's doing the same thing. But if every subject is doing the same, that means we can actually assume that the training is standardized. You would think that would mean that the training program is standardized, but no. So in what that would mean, or it wouldn't be the best way to prescribe resistance training in a study like this, because let's just say that a subject was currently doing 3 sets of squats per week, and then he enters the study and is asked to do 10. So that's over a 300% increase in his normal squat training volume. Now, there's nothing wrong with going from 3 to 10 sets, but most good coaches would kind of slowly bring that back up so that you can actually learn to recover. So maybe go to 5 and then to 7 and then to 8. And the opposite might also be true. So let's just say there is someone who's currently doing 20 sets and then you enter the study and then you should only be doing 10 sets and you can't really expect any muscle growth from that, right? So there would be no stimulus for growth. So the goal in the study was to determine if protein timing causes increases in muscle hypertrophy, for which you need a stimulus. And therefore, they did not want to change the resistance training stimulus of our subjects by increasing the volume in subjects a lot and decreasing it in others. So they wanted to have a bit of a consistent resistance training program that would provide a stimulus for growth that was similar to what they were currently doing with respect to their current training volume. They did this by separating the subjects into a group that was lifting with higher training volumes and a group that was previously lifting with lower training volumes, as we've already talked about, and as you can see here as well. Keeping their training volumes somewhat similar to what they've already been doing during this 8-week study. The lower volume subjects were prescribed a lifting program of 4 days per week, 2 upper and 2 lower workouts, and the higher volume was prescribed a training program of 5 days per week, 3 upper and 2 lower body workouts. The exercises, repetition ranges, rest periods, intensity, etc. were all kept equal for the lower and higher training volume lifters. The figure that you can see here shows a typical higher volume upper body and lower body workout routine that was used in the study. Now also let's talk about the nutrition. So the subjects tracked their calorie and macronutrient intake during the 8-week study. They either used MyFitnessPal or something called Caraf's app, which I'm actually not familiar with, I have to say. I would assume it's something similar. But the subjects were instructed to consume 0.9 grams of protein per pound of body weight, so more than what they had been consuming previously. So that would be 2 grams per kg during this study intervention. On training days, 50 grams of this protein was from the whey protein isolate or whey protein supplement, 25 grams before and 25 grams after the workout. And on non-training days, the protein intake was solely achieved from diet, no protein supplementation. So now let's look at, sorry, I missed a slide here. Now let's look at some of the physique-related outcomes. The primary outcome variable of the study was muscle mass, as we talked about. The researcher measured this with an in-body device. I'm not a huge fan of those because I do think that it's very influenced by body water, but it's one of the best ones out there. In addition to measuring changes in muscle mass, they also estimated maximal leg press and chest press. So again, the main purpose of the study was to see if consuming protein immediately before or after exercise is better than waiting a few hours to consume the same amount of protein. If waiting a few hours is just as good as consuming protein around the workout, then this study does not support the concept of protein timing for maximizing muscle mass. Before we look at what happened to the muscle mass, though, we have to check the subject's nutrition data once again. So while they planned for a difference in the timing of the protein intake around the workout, logically, that was part of the intervention, they had to make sure that the total daily protein intake were similar between the two groups. So yes, we want differences in protein timing for the study, but we do not want differences in protein intake. They also want to pay attention to total calorie intake, not just protein intake. And so they had to make sure that one of the timing groups was not in a calorie deficit while the other one was in a surplus, because that, of course, could throw over the results also. If that were to happen, any increase or decrease in muscle mass could not be attributed to the timing of the protein increase, but could just as easily be attributed to the differences in total calories consumed. Fortunately, there were no significant differences in nutrition intakes during the study. The data summarized in the table reflects the nutrition data taken towards the end of the study. So, you might argue, okay, there is a 200 calorie difference, not significant enough though. So yeah, in terms of like calories per kg, definitely not significant enough. And in terms of protein, basically the same. There was a small difference between averages in terms of calories, carbs, and fats, but yes, that doesn't really matter here. So let's look at the outcomes. While both groups significantly increased muscle mass during the 8-week study, there were no differences between the two groups. The immediate group gained 2.6 pounds and the 3-hour group gained 2.4 pounds of muscle mass. Fat mass remained constant with both groups not experiencing any increase or decrease in this variable during the study. There were no differences in muscle mass gains whether or not the protein was consumed immediately before and after their workouts, or if it was consumed 3 hours before and 3 hours after the workouts. This is the latest study to report that the timing of protein intake around one's workout is not that important for building muscle mass. There are now, according to Bill Campbell, 6 well-designed studies that investigated this topic. 2 studies reported that a protein-containing supplement did significantly increase muscle mass when protein timing was followed, though. So 4 that say it doesn't matter, and 2 that the timing does matter. Now let's look at these 2 studies though. So the first study was conducted on recreational male bodybuilders and reported that a protein-containing supplement ingested immediately before and after was better for building muscle than when the same protein-containing supplement was consumed in the morning and evening hours away from the workout stimulus. The other study was conducted in untrained elderly males and reported that a protein-containing supplement ingested immediately after resistance training was superior to waiting 2 hours to consume it for muscle hypertrophy. Bill Campbell, points out that he highlighted the words protein-containing supplement. So in both studies, the protein was not the only nutrient consumed, but it was only a part of what the subjects ingested. So in that first study with the more experienced bodybuilders, the subject consumed a protein carbohydrate creatine monohydrate supplement, so 40 grams of whey, 43 of carbs, 7 grams of creatine. In the second study, the subjects consumed a protein carbohydrate fat supplement, 10 grams of skim milk, and soy protein, 7 grams of carbs, and 3 grams of fat. So that means really the studies were not investigating protein timing as much as they were supplement timing, a supplement that contained protein but also several other things as well. And the other 3 studies that have already been conducted were more appropriately considering just protein timing studies, because the supplements used in these studies were almost all protein with only a trivial amount of other ingredients. So that's important. We have 6 studies, 4 of which say protein timing doesn't matter, and all these 4 just looked at protein, and 2 of which say protein timing does matter, but they actually included proteins and carbs and either creatine or fats as well. So can't really compare them, because it's more like comparing apples with bananas, so to speak. So the study reviewed in this issue is now the latest true protein timing study, reporting that it offers no benefits for building muscle mass when consumed around the time of the resistance training workout, as long as total daily protein intakes are optimized. We don't need to stress too much about consuming protein around our workout times. This is a good thing, because it is one less thing we need to worry about in our quest to optimize our physiques. Bill says, it's funny that while I acknowledge that protein timing, so getting my whey protein supplement around my workout times, is unnecessary to maximize muscle mass, I still prioritize it. If I'm working out in my research lab, I will take my whey protein supplement within a few minutes of finishing my workout. Why do I do this if the science doesn't support it? Well, his reasonings are: number 1, no study has reported any harm in implementing protein timing strategies. What I mean by this is that no study has reported a loss of muscle mass from timing one's protein around one's workout. Number 2, after total daily protein intakes are optimized, the second most important variable is to approximately evenly distribute the daily protein into 3 to 4 or 5 feedings. It makes sense that one of those protein feedings occurs right around my workout. I don't like to eat right before my workout. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry for a while after my workout. So having a liquid protein like a whey protein shake immediately after my workout serves 2 purposes. It helps me reach my total daily protein intake goal, and it serves as one of my 4 protein feedings throughout the day. Also, just lastly, I guess, because it said that the researchers looked at the maximal strength, so estimated maximal strength for the leg press and chest press was also significantly increased during the study in both groups, but there were no differences between the 2 groups, so protein timing did not affect any strength advantages either. For the leg press strength, the immediate group increased strength by about 55 pounds. That's pretty good in 8 weeks. And the 3-hour group increased strength by 94 pounds. Wow, how is this not significant? But anyway, for chest press, the immediate group increased by 26 pounds, and the 3-hour group increased by 20 pounds. Lastly, I just wanted to mention study strengths and limitations. Goodness. I have been so behind on my slides here. I really apologize. I hope you've been listening more than you've been trying to read. But yeah, anyway, let me carry on. So the study strength, the resistance training program was based on prior training volume, definitely a big strength. The workouts were supervised. Also, we've talked about this in a previous paper, how much more you can push yourself, how much more likely you are going to push yourself if it's under supervision. And then there were some study limitations, or things that Bill considers as study limitations, and that was the duration. 8 weeks really is not a ton for assessing hypertrophy. And there was only one assessment of muscle hypertrophy. So he says, when muscle hypertrophy is the primary outcome variable, it's best to measure this directly and indirectly. A direct assessment of muscle hypertrophy is a tissue-specific measure that uses things such as ultrasound or MRI. Indirect assessment of muscle hypertrophy are whole body estimates of muscle gain and use devices such as DEXA, BODPOD, and InBody, what this study used. While rare, the ideal for muscle hypertrophy studies is to assess hypertrophy directly and indirectly. So now a few thoughts to walk away with. That he also asks, what are your protein distribution recommendations? So how many times per day do you recommend protein intake and over what time point? So I personally, again, want my clients to get all their protein in, and it doesn't really matter when. But I do really love it when people start their day off with quite a bit of protein. So for women, that would be a minimum of 30 to 40 grams, for men 50 or more, just because otherwise you're always kind of limping behind. And when you start this, it doesn't matter if it's at 11 or if it's at 7 a.m. But having your first feeding include a good amount of protein is so helpful also for blood sugar regulation, for satiety throughout the rest of the day. And then I would say for most people, the minimum sort of split would be into 3, just so that you don't get to your dinner and you're like, oh crap, I still have to eat 120 grams of protein. How do I do that? And then you lay there struggling to digest it all. So I would say something like 30 to 40 grams in each meal for a female, something like 50 grams for a male, minimum kind of thing. That can work really well. And again, distributed in 3 to 5 feedings. I think that works really well when it comes to what we can actually digest. Do you recommend consuming protein around the time your clients work out? Not specifically. I will say if someone works out first thing in the morning and they eat a very early dinner, I do recommend having a protein shake beforehand, specifically for women that do go through, that are within perimenopause and menopause, just to help support their stress levels as well, and of course their hypertrophy too, but just in general can be beneficial to have those amino acids floating around. As Bill says, there is certainly no harm in that. I don't necessarily say like you have to have a protein shake right away. I do say try to have something like half of your idea, or something like 20-30 grams of protein in your post-workout meal within an hour or 2 maximum of your training, and maybe 40 grams or so of carbs in that post-workout meal also. For men, of course, increase that portion size. But yeah, that's kind of the general recommendation that I would give. This is quite nuanced, as Bill was saying in the beginning. Also, let's really focus on the total daily protein intakes and being consistent with that. But if you are looking for optimization, I too think like why not have those amino acids available, even if there is or might not be any direct or a very obvious benefit. So yeah, that is all. I will drop the, of course, the name of the paper and of course the link to Body by Science in the show notes. I can, as I said, only recommend it. I hope you enjoyed this research recap. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening. And once again, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.